Okay, how's it going? We're up here on Bolinas Ridge in Mill Valley, California, in Northern California. And I'm going to do a review of the Mountain Hardwear Spark. All the information that I'm sharing about the Spark is just basic information. I bought it for 150 bucks on Cyber Monday from backcountry.com. Okay, here's this is a 7 denier 16 liter rucksack from Gossamer Gear, and the Spark is inside of there, okay? Pretty small. All right, there it is. Dump it out. All right, there it is. There's my foot next to it. Okay, pretty small. 1.5 pounds. Okay, it's got a half pound of nylon and a pound of synthetic cotton balls called Q Shield. All right, now this is the same weight as the most competitive ultra lightweight down bags on the market and uses some pretty similar nylon. Okay, so here we go. It's yellow, high visibility, yellow and orange. Yellow on the inside. Orange on the inside, yellow on the outside. Two different kinds of nylon. The liner on the inside is 10 denier, very, very thin nylon. And it's not as comfortable to sleep on as the shell. The shell is a little bit thicker, maybe like 12 or 15 denier. The thicker nylon is more absorptive. You can get it grimy and dirty and sweaty and still stay comfortable in comparison to the 10 denier liner on the inside. There's another sleeping bag by Montbell, which is down, which uses a pound of nylon and a half pound of 900 fill. It's called the Montbell Down Hugger 900 fill Down Hugger number 5. It's more or less identical to this except for down, and it uses a pound of nylon instead of a half pound of nylon. Now that makes the nylon more comfortable. It can absorb more sweat and it's easier to live in. But the problem is that you can't wash down. So I've got some down on, okay? Now this down jacket that I'm wearing, it's got 850 fill in it, but I've only washed it about 3 times in 2 years. The Mountain Hardwear is the total opposite of that. You can wash this every single day if you wanted to. You know, the Q Shield insulation that's in here, it has a tendency to be really hot. If you sweat like crazy in it, you can just take it to the laundromat and wash it the next day. You can wash it as many times as you want. And when you put it in the dryer, I would put it on a medium heat or low heat or no heat, because the nylon is so thin it could singe and melt a little. But to be honest, it's pretty durable. As far as putting it in the washer dryer, it's really durable. The rocks that are on the ground, that can put little holes in that ultra lightweight nylon. But still, even with little tiny holes in it, it doesn't really matter. I mean, you know, overall, it's a pretty durable bag. I like to sleep in it inside out. I'm going to flip it inside out and show you what it looks like inside out. Okay, so inside out, the reason why I think it's more comfortable is because of this flap right here. This flap prevents warm air from being able to escape through the top zipper. Okay, and now when you have it on the outside, warm air can't escape. So the zipper is zipped up. While the zipper is zipped up, warm air is able to escape through the zipper, but it holds on to most of the warm air. And the warm air can just come out of here like a chimney. You know, with this flap on the outside, the warm air can still escape. When the orange side is flipped, flipped normally, and you're sleeping in the sleeping bag with the orange side inside, the hot air has a tendency to get trapped in here, and it has a vent for the belly down here. But this allows a cold spot because it's right on top. It's not on the side. So your warm air is escaping up through out of there like a chimney, and cold air is dropping straight down there. So it feels like you have an ice pack on your belly button. It's too cold, and it really isn't usable. Also, if you unzip the bag down to like the chest area, that's a little too much ventilation. Also, it can get really cold. I mean, in temperatures under 50, it can get cold. I've been sleeping in this bag for about a month in 42-degree weather. Not on public land. I live on Mount Tam where I am, and I've been sleeping on my own property, but just experimenting with the bag. And basically, you know, what I found is that if I flip the bag inside out, I can wear a technical t-shirt and some long johns and stay pretty comfortable and warm in here. Sometimes it's too hot, in which case if it's too hot, I unzip the top about 2 inches, just like that, because basically this bag doesn't have a lip to it to capture heat around the neck. But the long version of the sleeping bag, it does that naturally. The top of the bag just kind of folds in and creates a collar around the neck to trap the warm air in. If you unzip the top just like 2 inches, that creates a perfect amount of ventilation where the warm air that's gathering around the chest and the arms it needs a way to escape without getting too cold. But, you know, the Q shield has a tendency to get too hot. So that hot pocket of air that collects around the arms and chest, it needs to get out somehow. And just by opening the top just a little, 2 inches, and flipping the bag inside out so that some heat can escape through the zipper, that seems to be enough. Now, sometimes that's still too hot. And, you know, being too cold or too hot is sort of an issue with this bag. It's extremely light. You know, it's really, really soft and comfortable. The main advantage of the sleeping bag is the hood. This is probably the most luxurious, most comfortable synthetic hood ever made. If you shove your face into the side of that hood while you're sleeping, you can breathe directly in and out through the hood. That's how breathable it is. You know, you don't feel like you're suffocating on the fabric at all. So there's basically 2 other kinds of synthetic insulation that are in competition with Q Shield. There's Climashield Apex and there's Primaloft Gold. Patagonia started using Primaloft Gold for their Nano Puff jacket, and it's used on another jacket called the Rab Xenon jacket. And there's also Climashield Apex, which is sold by ThruHiker.com. Eddie Bauer is using it for their Mount Everest sleeping bag. And it's also used by North Face. You know, but Climashield Apex, you cannot breathe through it. So for the North Face sleeping bag, they're using a different kind of Climashield that's more breathable called Climashield Prism. But Climashield Prism is a 3-pound sleeping bag, whereas Q Shield is a 1.5 pound sleeping bag. So Q Shield is literally half the weight of Climashield Prism. And the Eddie Bauer Climashield Apex sleeping bag, they use some Climashield Prism for the hood, but it's at least a half a pound heavier than the Q Shield Spark. The other major issue with the Q Shield is convection. Okay, so convection is when you put a flame underneath the frying pan, and the molecules start to vibrate on the bottom of the frying pan. They bump into the molecules next to it, and they cause the molecules in the frying pan to all start to vibrate so that the frying pan can get hot. Now, a good insulator like down, it does the opposite. It doesn't vibrate at all. So the outside of the down is cold, and the inside of the down warms up with body heat. Okay, but the outside feathers are cold and the inside feathers are warm, and there's no convection. So the outside feathers that are cold don't cool off the inside feathers, and the inside feathers that are warm don't warm up the outside feathers. Okay, now that's not necessarily true with Q Shield. If the outside air or if the outside ground is cold, it's possible for the inside of the Q Shield bag to also get cold. It doesn't have the same lack of convection that Climashield Apex and Primaloft Gold and Down have. You know, it does suffer from convection a little bit more than the other types of insulation. But so it's an issue of just staying warm, you know, figuring out how exactly you're going to sleep inside of the Q Shield. You might need to wear a jacket. The photograph for the Q Shield Spark on the internet, it shows a guy in his jacket with the zipper unzipped. Now what that does is the jacket has its own temperature rating, which is usually cooler than the sleeping bag. The sleeping bag has a tendency to get really hot, where a jacket doesn't get as hot. So if you have a jacket that doesn't breathe at all, that doesn't allow any of your body heat to escape the jacket will prevent your body heat from radiating up into the Q Shield, and that will prevent the Q Shield from getting hot. So your temperature will stay at the temperature rating of your jacket. Now that can cause your legs to get cold because the warmth for your legs comes from your chest, and if the jacket is preventing your chest from warming up the bag, then your legs might not get warm enough. And because the outside cold air is able to cool off the Q Shield on the inside of the bag, you might wake up in the morning with your legs kind of cold. So you need to wear some track pants like the ones I have on, or some long johns to keep your legs warm, and maybe a fleece jacket, like for instance the classic fleece from Patagonia, which is $150, is kind of expensive. That fleece, it doesn't have a very high temperature rating. The plastic hairs don't collect that much body heat, but it also is plastic, so it blocks your body heat from radiating up into the Q Shield, and that prevents the Q Shield from getting hot. So if you think that you would be too hot wearing a jacket inside of a sleeping bag, that's not really true. The jacket prevents the sleeping bag from getting hot. because all of the warmth is coming from your own body heat. So if the jacket blocks your body heat from warming up the bag never gets warm. Okay? So that's how that works. You can wear this with a yellow side out with a jacket, and the jacket will prevent the bag from getting hot and you won't start sweating. Or you can turn it inside out so that there's more ventilation and wear just a technical t-shirt and some long johns, and that might also work. You know, sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes I sweat and I'm just uncomfortable no matter what I try to do. But the thing is that you can wash the sleeping bag, so it doesn't really matter. If it was a down bag like the Montbell or Western Mountaineering bag, if you sweat in it, you're going to destroy the bag. You know, you can only wash it 2 or 3 or 4 times in the lifespan of the sleeping bag before the sleeping bag starts to get wrecked. So with these synthetic bags, you know, if you have a disaster one night where you're just uncomfortable and you're sweating, it's okay because you can just wash the sleeping bag and just deal with it the next day.